another Super Tuesday recap of Black Lightning. We are in the Book of Blood, Chapter 1, Requiem. And a lot happened this episode. And at the same time, I don't know. It was all gone so fast. So I am Shanna. I am joined by the doctor and D and Parrish, and I'm going to start with you guys. What did you think, doctor?
Okay.
That's all I got. Just meh. It didn't grab me this week. It just didn't.
I kind of feel you. What about you, Parrish? What did you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, a lot happened and nothing happened at all. And like I walked away just kind of thinking, what did I watch and what does all of this mean?
Yeah. How about you, D?
Seemed like this episode, a lot of people were trying to, get right with someone else or make someone else get right with them. You had Anissa trying to get right with Grace. You had Jefferson trying to get right with Henderson. You had Tobias trying to make Khalil get right with him. You had Khalil trying to get right with Jennifer. And you had Lynn trying to make things right with the green light babies, and that turned out weirdly. But there were a lot of things seemed kind of forced, but otherwise it wasn't too bad. It was all right.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't a bad episode. It was just a forgettable episode. Or I go back to they're doing these chapters, these books in these chapters, and it feels like they're trying to say that like an episode isn't a complete story. Like one episode is just a part of the story of the arc. I still need my episodes to have some coherency. I still need to go through a full something, point A to point B in one episode. Even if point B isn't the end of the arc, I need it to have a full something, and it's just missing. So I feel like as someone who does write, I should have a better explanation of what it is that I'm looking for. But it's just not quite curling over for me right now.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You need a sense of completion with a story, even if it's a part of another longer story. Like there's a reason why you set chapters the way that you set them. Like there's supposed to be mini stories that push you to the next chapter, and I'm not getting that.
Yes. Thank you. The chapter.
Just a quick question. Does anyone actually think Gambi's dead?
I don't.
It's a comic book. Nobody's dead.
Yeah.
Nobody. Okay. Just checking. I was like, I know they don't actually expect people to believe that he's actually dead. So.
Well, it's like they did he did the Nick Fury car ride with his supercar, apparently, that we didn't know Gambi had, but makes absolute sense that Gambi has. So they did that whole thing. And
that was an absolute ripoff of Captain America Winter Soldier. I'm like, they didn't even try to pretend it wasn't ripping them off.
And I really expected that when Anissa went to the Black Cave, that Gambi was going to be there, all wounded. I was really expecting that. That's why I was annoyed when Jefferson was like, don't go over there. I was like, why wouldn't you go to the Black Cave and see if he's there? Like, if he found his way back.
Yo, his supercar wasn't super enough. He needs to get it together. Because, I mean, Nick Fury took care of that. And he was fine. And, yeah.
Fury had a budget. Gambi.
I mean, have you seen all the technology that Gambi has put in them suits?
Yeah. Gambi uses the same tech that Tony Stark uses on his computer screens. So I don't put nothing past Gambi. Yeah, it's just again,
And
like we clearly don't think that Gambi is dead. So I get if the characters think it, but I'm also kind of like, I guess where is my investment though? Because I'm pretty sure he's not dead.
Right. So there's the part of this where we've talked about this before, where the show tells you what these characters are like more than you actually see it. So like, Henderson being smart.
Mm-hmm.
So
you really don't like Henderson.
No, I like him fine. I just don't think he's that smart. That's all. But I mean, Jefferson was like, yo, this is Gambi. He has contingencies within contingencies. And I'm like, yeah, but obviously he didn't have a contingency for somebody opening fire on his SUV that has his name clearly marked on the door.
Yes. Gambi. I was like, why does a guy named that makes suits need a van that says his name on the side?
Right.
Hello. I don't know any tailors that have like a mobile. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, just in case there's a tailoring emergency in the marked van. Like,
where was he going in the first place?
Apparently, this is just a typical Gambi day where he like rides by the barbecue spot next to the giant mural of John Lewis and picks up his produce from the Asian man, who he apparently frequents so much that the Asian man is like, no, white man, your money is no good here. And
I was like, okay, I guess.
And then he drives away. Like, this is what Gambi does. It's just a typical Tuesday for Gambi.
Yo, he is the most popular white man in the city.
And apparently the only one. Like everyone else lives outside of the Gambi, outside of the community, but Gambi's part of the community. So Gambi lives right there in his shop.
Which goes along with him having his name on the door. It's like, could you be any easier to spot? Like, you're the only white dude in the city, and your name is on the side of your car.
Like, dude, you're the only one that live here. We don't need like an ID tag. We know who you are.
But he has contingencies in contingencies. Come on, y'all.
Oh my god, yeah, this is just.
Well, I mean, maybe, and I did get a chance to go back and watch that opening scene, but maybe that. Remember, like back in season 1, where they were using some sort of hologram technology to sort of show Black Lightning, just sort of just show him, and sort of so they wouldn't think that Jefferson was him or something like that. Or maybe something like that's in play here. I'm just guessing
because there were bullets. And that was the whole thing with the Black Lightning hologram. Was the whole issue is like, you can't let anybody actually get near him, because if they try to touch him, it'll mess it up. And you also, like, that was the thing too, was Anissa couldn't let anybody get in between them because the hologram like would go out. So it was definitely a car. It was definitely Gambi. I'm pretty sure he got out of it somehow. Like, I think he probably jumped out before it turned over or something, and we just are not going to see it until they decide to show us that he's alive. And then we'll get the, actually he rolled under a dumpster storyline. So.
Right. And I mean, I'm not even going to theorize about it, because that would be me putting more thought into this than the writers apparently did at this moment. So I'm just gonna roll with it.
So much. Yeah. So Gambi's clearly alive. Let's talk about Jen, because she wasn't my favorite this week, which is disappointing.
I was gonna say that's a first.
I know. But okay, so here's my thing. I get she feels like she's in a prison and she's calling her parents the jailers and all this other stuff. But also, girl, just, I don't know, is be at home and enjoy Netflix. Like, online classes are bullshit. They're easy. Do them. Like, spend an hour, knock them bad boys out, and I don't know, text. I got nothing for her. It's just, text Khalil even.
Right. I mean, I happen to be one of those people that did not have like the greatest experience in high school. Like, I hated my high school, so I have a hard time mustering up sympathy for her anyway.
Well, I guess at least this time they at least didn't try to have the characters explain science and math. They just let a website do it for them, which I I got bored and actually did the problems. I know one answer she got wrong, and the other answer she hadn't quite answered yet. So anyway, but yes. So yeah, that first thing that she was writing down, she didn't have the right answer. And then the computer problem was, I didn't get around to answering that, but at least we don't have bad writing science. So
I want Jennifer to just. This whole thing is obviously pushing her back towards Khalil, which I guess I'm with what's his name, Councilman Parker, who called him bootleg Bob Marley. Well, I guess if this is what we doing, but I don't know. Her teenage angst and ennui is just too much in this episode, and the whole and she's smoking on the roof because. That's the only thing that gets her through these hard times is smoking on the roof. I just, girl, go take a relaxing bath or something.
All that being said, and I've been trying to fight this, China's still a better actress than Nafessa.
Oh, she's great. She's doing a great job. I mean, clearly she's doing a great job because I can't stand her, and I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to stand her right now.
Right. Yeah.
So unlike Anissa, who I feel like they are trying to be like, oh, don't you understand Anissa's side of this? And I'm like, oh no, Anissa's still also a fuckboy. So there's that.
Okay, watching that whole scene with Grace, like, I remember you saying Anissa is a fuckboy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just kept playing in my head in your voice.
And this is a fuckboy. And Grace stood up in her truth and was like, this was cute, but guess what? This is not going to be you booty calling me every time you're in a bad mood so you can feel better.
So here's the thing about this entire episode. The only person I really gave a damn about at the end of it was Jefferson. Like, watching him process and deal and start those stages of grief with regards to Gambi was the only compelling thing. Jen was a hot mess. Anissa continues to be Anissa. Even Lynn, I'm like, you dumb. Is you stupid or is you dumb? You keep making these stupid, dumbass decisions with regard to this sociopath and then getting mad when she does sociopath shit, when she told you and basically told you all but slapped you in the face with, I'm a sociopath. Mm-hmm. And so everybody just got on my nerves. And I love Gambi, but you dumb as hell.
See, I'm
driving around with a big ass target on your car. I don't care how bulletproof it is.
I'm with you, but the one person I cared about the most at the end of this episode was Dr. Jace. I really like Dr. Jace.
That bitch need to be under jail. I ain't studying her.
Dr.
Crazy
Jace
ass.
is awesome. She was like, look, here's what we can do. She's like, you figured it out. We can save half of them. If we keep them in the pods any longer, there's a good chance we're going to lose all of them. But we can save half of them. And Lynn is like, no, we're going to keep them in the pods until we figure out how we can save all of them. That's just endangering the other half.
Okay, here's something I'm pretty curious about. So then Dr. Jace comes back and says, I figured out a way we can save all of them. And she said she ran some simulations. So either Lynn didn't check her work.
Oh, she didn't.
or that was...
Yeah.
There was no way. I mean, for someone to take an about face like that, I'm checking and double checking their work just to make sure it's what she said she could do can actually be done. I'm like,
no, you're absolutely right, because Jace has proven herself to be perfectly trustworthy up to this point, right?
Yeah. So this is the thing. I understand why Lynn didn't check her work and I also understand why Jace did it the way she did it, because she knew that Lynn wouldn't. She knew that Lynn wouldn't check her work. She knew that Lynn, they had come to a point where Lynn had kind of gotten to trust her. And then also, from the very moment they showed her on screen, I was like, Lynn looks tired. Lynn looks haggard. She looks like she's been through it. She's desperate for any solution. So it was a smart play. It was because especially when we see this all the time on TV shows, when they always have like sciences and it's like, oh my God, like I figured it out. We have to think of it like blah, 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 blah. And then the other person is like, yeah, let's try it. They don't, the calculations, they don't go back and look. They don't check the math. They don't carry the ones. So I wasn't surprised at all. Now, you could say that had Lynn been thinking and not been like desperate for any solution, she would have seen it coming. But that was clearly not what happened.
Yeah, maybe.
But again, Jace was not wrong. Had they kept the kids in the pods, they would have lost more of them. Save half.
Shanna, you dropped off there.
I was saying that, like, had they kept the kids in the pods, like, any longer, they would have lost all of them. So save the half you can save, instead of losing the whole batch. I honestly don't see what's wrong with this.
Our silence, I think, I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah, I mean, I get the math. I get the math problem. I don't know. I'm just not feeling her like that.
You on your own, baby. I'm sorry.
Well, y'all would have lost 28 instead of 14. I'm sorry.
We love you, though. We do.
Also, it's not like they're saving these kids and letting them out of these pods and reuniting them with their fucking families anyway. They're literally
so it's okay to just let them die?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. They're saving them to experiment on them anyway. Yeah. Then fucking save the ones you can save.
It's okay.
Y'all over here killing. Y'all just letting everybody die for the sake of nothing. So Lynn can sort of kind of maybe figure it out. Whatever.
We're cool. We're cool.
It's still family. It's still love.
Yeah, we got you.
I'm fine.
We ain't gonna let nobody else talk about you.
Yeah. So Jen and Khalil are back together. That was the conclusion of that. That was my conclusion anyway. They damn near kissed.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that either. This episode just was really off to me.
It was. It really was. I'm like,
and I mean, maybe this is just me because of some of the things I've been going through this year, but like Lynn was really head ass about Jefferson's grieving, and that was annoying me too. Mm-hmm. Like the whole thing with the watch, like you can't see that your husband is in a state of denial. He hasn't quite processed this yet, and you're gonna go to Gambi's place and grab something that obviously was of some significance to the both of them, and just shove it in his hand and say, I think Gambi would have wanted you to have this. Like, that is not how you handle a loved one who's grieving.
At all.
Forced them through that process.
I don't know if it felt like Lynn and Anissa were very much so like, oh, Gambi dead.
They really were. Jen and Jefferson had more of a reaction than they did.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I appreciated Lynn saying that one thing where she was like, I should have told him how much I appreciated how much he cared about that family. I was like, I get why you didn't tell your husband's mistress how you felt about him.
I hate you so much right now.
I can't do it with you today.
You are on one today. What is going on?
I was just saying, like, I understand. Like, you don't go to the other woman, you know, and be like, you know, I really did appreciate the way you loved him. Like, you know, like you just don't do that. But in hindsight, I get why she felt bad.
But to be fair, Jefferson could probably see a body and still wouldn't believe he was dead.
Yeah. But I think the absence of the body is definitely like, well, we know how Gambi is. Gambi is scrappy. He has 5 million. Like, he had a friggin' structural integrity meter on his fucking car. So it's Gambi. I get it. It was weird how quickly they accepted it and were like pushing Jefferson to like, well, let's start planning a service. Like,
but also it just came out of no. This episode was just a mess. I'm just gonna leave it there.
The other thing that was weird to me about it was like, if Gambi did die like that, like if he was really dead, if there was a body and he was really dead, it was weird to me that nobody was trying to investigate what happened to him. Like, it was more like, let's start planning a funeral. Let's start memorializing him instead of like, who would want to take him out and are they coming after us next?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, I could buy that from Jefferson.
Yeah.
Like, I can completely buy that from Jefferson.
It was weird to me that Anissa, especially Anissa as gung-ho as she's been about like everything, like playing Robin Hood and Private Eye and all this other stuff, wouldn't think there's something suspicious about Gambi's death and be investigating it. And even though Henderson's told them like to stay out of it, I don't think any of them would stay out of it. So it was just, it was just weird.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And then okay, so let's talk about Anissa. She is working.
Do we have to?
We do. We do, because it leads into the random ass cliffhanger.
Okay.
Like when the episode ended,
someone explained that ending to me.
Yeah.
I did
when it
not
ended,
get
I
it
was just like, "What? Why are we here? How did we end up here? Why are we here? Why are we showing credits? You've given me nothing." So Anissa is volunteering at the clinic that she helped save with her Robin Hood money, and one of her patients, which this was just weird. So, first of all, seeing Anissa be a doctor, that was just funny. That was just comedy. Like, even
when the whole show forgot about it, like up until this point.
Exactly. And even her, like taking blood pressure, I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't buy this. This doesn't feel real. So her patient is this Black girl who's pregnant, and she has this fucking sketchy white boy with her. Like, dude was radiating, I am sketchy as fuck.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't send off like Anissa's spidey senses out the gate was crazy to me. So he's just like super harsh and short and like just do your job, just help her, da, 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 da. And the girl is saying how she's really nervous that she's going to be a bad mom and all this other stuff. And then this is all like, you know, take it from someone who has great parents. All great parents worry about how good of parents they're going to be, da, 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 da.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just like, okay, Anissa. I'm like, you was talking about your great parenting last week when you was calling Jefferson everything but a child of God, but whatever. So then the boy shows up later and he seems to have all of these scar marks bleeding on his face. And he is like, help her, help the baby, find her, blah, blah, blah. And then Henderson shows up because he just dies in Anissa's arms. So Henderson shows up at the clinic. And while they're talking, which by the way, so it wasn't until they're talking, like the end of their conversation, that Anissa's like, what if the mom is hurt somewhere? We should go look. I was like, this is just occurring to you.
After he comes in bleeding saying, go help her.
Yes, like this is just occurring to you. I was just like, this is so frustrating. And then while they're talking, some sort of like silver liquid metal thing starts coming out of the boys' scars. So Nissa takes that. She goes back to the Black Cave to investigate. And then she decides to go looking for the mom and the baby. And she drives into this town outside of Freeland, gets pulled over by this cop. By the way, Sheriff Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Could we be even less subtle show? Okay. So pulls over by this white guy. He's doing the usual like hard ass white guy spiel of like, you seem suspicious and all this other stuff. And then in the background, you see like some sort of like Silver Surfer not Silver Surfer. What's the other guy? Quicksilver ass person running around in the background. Sketchy as fuck, and this is like, what the hell is going on? And then you see something moving underneath the sheriff's skin, and she's like, okay, hell no, we getting the fuck out of here. And this is how you know that the sheriff is like some sort of crazy metahuman or whatever, because he didn't actually shoot at the car, he let her go. So right. I was literally expecting bullets when she peeled off. But clearly whatever's happening in this town is like probably like a town full of like crazy metahumans that doesn't want anybody to know that they're a town full of crazy metahumans. And to all of that I say, what the fuck? I have nothing.
It didn't make sense. It came out of nowhere. Nothing was seeded about this. Nothing was seeded about this.
Nothing makes sense.
Are we supposed to connect the father to those sketchy people at the end of the episode?
Yes, at least to the sheriff, but that's not the point. The point is nothing was seeded about this. It came out of nowhere. This was a bad. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say this was a trash episode, y'all. It was.
It's just, here's the thing with this. Again, if we're going like by arcs. If the first arc was supposed to be the aftermath of what happened at the school, Jefferson dealing with losing his position, Anissa becoming this new like vigilante PI person, and Lynn and the Greenlight babies, we still haven't really completed that arc. That first arc was really just setting us up for this arc, which is supposed to be now Tobias is free. How is and he's manipulating things, and Lynn is still trying to figure out how to save the Greenlight babies. And so it feels like they're trying to like start a bunch of new storylines, but we still haven't completed the last arc really.
And that's why I say this is trash. Yes. Because and I pray I'm wrong and that later in the series, all these threads connect in at the center. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what's frustrating me is we haven't completed one arc and now you're throwing in. Oh, also forgot to mention, after Grace and Anissa have sex, something's going on with Grace. She's manifesting some sort of powers. Out of where? Because of what? Has Grace secretly been doing green light this whole time?
Well, again, this whole thing about every character being what the plot needs them to be at the moment. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, nothing makes sense.
And that's the thing is, like, they've kind of put this idea out there that what we're dealing with, even like you see the scene where Jefferson's listening, like watching the news, and you hear the TV and there's all these people being like, all these metahumans, all these green light babies, like this is just the beginning of the apocalypse and blah, 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 all that. So you're really getting the sense that they're trying to push this whole idea that these metahumans are an effect of these experiments, right? And these drugs. So if Anissa goes to some town outside of Freeland that is like full of crazy metahumans with metal skin, or I don't even know, what does that mean for the world you're building? How did these people get their powers? Was there another town that they've been experimenting on? Like, you're setting up too many questions and you haven't answered any of the questions that you already set up.
Well, they did that last season. Remember at the end of last season, we were like one episode away from the end, and we were all like, they're opening up too many cans. Mm-hmm. So they're doing the same thing over again. It's just they have more time to play with it. So hopefully we get a resolution.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so we are back after a little internet mishap. We had to come back this week, and we are going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 of the Book of Blood, Requiem and Perdi. And unfortunately, we've also lost the doctor. She had an emergency today. But I want to start off by asking you, do you feel differently about chapter 1 after seeing chapter 2? How do you feel, D?
No. I guess you want more an actual explanation. But last week's episode was sort of meh. This week, I explained a couple things like, Gambi. We all knew Gambi wasn't dead. We just had to figure out how he wasn't going to be dead. And it didn't really explain anything in the last episode. It didn't make me feel any that they were trying to set up something. It just, I mean, I will say there are parts of this episode I like more than I did the last one, but it doesn't make me feel any like, oh, I see where they were coming from, in episode 5. So.
How about you, Parrish?
Not really. I mean, they're clearly getting at something. They just haven't gotten there yet. At least I'll give them credit for doing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, which is you don't leave something lingering for multiple episodes when you could just wrap it up the next episode. So we know what happened with Gambi. We know Gambi's still around. That's fine. I just still feel like the South Freeland thing just came out of the blue. And it seems heavy-handed, and I don't know what to make of it. So
I'm trying to figure out, how did they not know? How did Anissa not know about at least the existence of South Freeland?
I don't think they were trying to say she didn't know about the existence of South Freeland. I think she didn't know how things were in South Freeland. So actually, for me, episode 5 made a lot more sense, and the pacing of it made a lot more sense after seeing episode 6. And so I think it's not that she didn't know it didn't exist, but she didn't know how the town was divided up. And the way I looked at it is it's very similar to like how you have Atlanta and then you have all of the towns outside of Atlanta. So like Atlanta is a city and it has that more dynamics of a city and all of that kind of stuff. And then you have the smaller towns outside of the city, which are still extremely segregated. And so that was the feeling that I got. It's just like South Freeland is like a small town outside of Freeland that is very much so divided into black and white.
Yeah, that part made perfect sense to me. I mean, you know, that's really the tale of any, I would say, any major metropolitan area in the country where, you know, it seems like it's one big giant, you know, metropolitan area, but you know, there are corners of that whole complex that just doesn't know how the other parts work and don't really need to know. So that made perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So what I did notice, because what I also did was I went back and I rewatched the first episode and this episode back to back. And I noticed in the title cards, they actually have the girl, the looker, in the title cards, which would have made some sense to us last week had they introduced the looker at the end of that episode. So I still think there were some mistakes were made. It definitely wasn't perfect. Mistakes were made. Because I feel like you get the looker and then you understand more of what is going on. And had they just even shown her once last week, I think it would have made all of the difference in the story. For instance, even with Deacon, the way he talks to Anissa makes so much more sense after you see how the things are divided up in South Freeland between black and white.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of waiting on sort of next week's episode just to see how that black-white or better yet, was it Perdi Sangee interaction is going to be. But yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think the other thing I thought it was interesting is because Perdi and Sangee are clearly their plays on the words, the French words. Perdi means lost, and sangre means blood. So they're clearly like kind of playing on that kind of Creole thing, which feels like maybe they're also like alluding to Freeland. We've always thought of it as Atlanta, but maybe it's also like giving it like a little New Orleans, like kind of Creole thing going on. So I don't know. It feels like they're definitely like pulling different threads and trying to have different influences there. Go ahead.
I just kind of accepted this as, you know, this is modeled after a comic book, and sometimes when you have a comic book, you have threads introduced into a story, and they'll continue on, and you don't quite know what they mean to the larger story. Like, I don't know what this means to the larger story. But you know, eventually something will intersect, and you'll figure out that's what it was all the time, and that's just where I am.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like where we left the conversation off last week, is they've been introducing a lot of threads and not all of them have paid off, or we're still waiting for some of those things to pay off. Like the Jill Scott thing with the zombie people, that never really resolved itself. It's like they're alluding to these metahuman things, but they're not concluding them or bringing them to light.
Well, I think they at least made an attempt to try to tie Looker back to, I guess, the original storyline by saying that potentially she might be one of the the original, I guess, well, green light babies isn't the word, but the original people, the kind of people that was created, by Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
The original vaccine babies. Thank you. So they tried to do that, but
what does that mean?
Yeah.
That's
well, like I said, it was an attempt. I didn't say it was a very good one. It was an attempt.
I think
they got explaining to do, but
I think they're definitely trying to show that there are other metas like Jefferson who have been around since 30 years ago and using their powers. Clearly Jefferson decided to become a superhero. This girl decided she was going to control a town full of white folks. Like, very, very different approaches. Also, that actress, she was in an episode of Supergirl. Actually, 2 episodes of Supergirl. So it was good to see her again. Glad she's getting work over on the CW. Same thing with the black woman. Who played the mom. She's been on Vampire Diaries and some other shows like the originals.
I was happy to see the Black Death actor. I haven't really seen him anywhere, but just to see Black deaf people acting is a thing I like to see.
Yeah. And I also liked because I got a very Walking Dead vibe from the whole Perdi group. It felt like a combination of Walking Dead and then also, again, if you ever watched like Vampire Diaries or originals, usually there's like a group of werewolves, and originals takes place in New Orleans. So there's like a group of werewolves who live out in the bayou. So I definitely got that vibe as well from the Perdi group. It just feels like, again, the focus is not always where we want it or need it to be for the story, because they very much so tell us that the black guy killed Deacon. Like, he's the reason Deacon's dead, not the looker. And that it's going to start a war between the Perdi and the Sangee. That would have been great to see. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting to see that next episode. But then, granted, I didn't actually see the preview, but I'm kind of expecting to see that this whole Perdi Sangee thing sort of wrap up, next episode. This is assuming they only have 3 parts to this second book.
I think it's only 3 parts, I'm pretty sure. It's just like little things like that where I would it's like a slight rewrite. Like, I think it would have been really, really easy last week for Deacon or for Anaya to, like, even if they didn't get into all of the supernatural part, to make it really clear that, like, we came to this clinic because our families don't want us to be together because I'm black and he's white. That's a really simple thing. It's 1 sentence. And then you get a whole backstory out of that.
Right. I mean, yeah. So it comes back down to, none of us are going anywhere. We like the show, clearly, because we're still watching it. But if you want to keep us engaged, the pacing needs to change a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we can talk about this later. But one thing I was definitely thinking is that maybe it might be better for us to chunk up these reviews according to the books.
Yeah.
Because it definitely feels like these are all going to be like cliffhanger. You're not supposed to get it till the end of the book.
Right. Because again, this is how I felt. I mean, I felt last week and I still feel this week. I mean, I saw the episode, like, there are things I can piece together, but I'm still really fumbling around in the dark. Like, you're piecing it together. You don't really get the story as it's intended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it might be, they might be setting themselves up in a sense where it becomes a show that's better to binge or to watch like in chunks than it is to watch week by week, which isn't necessarily good when you think of how network TV ratings work. because you want people to watch every week and for the ratings to stay high. Whereas like now I'm looking at it like, maybe I'll wait a couple weeks.
But you know what? I think that's where television is going in general.
But it doesn't work if you're a network TV show. That's how you get canceled.
Yeah.
It works if you're on Hulu or Netflix. Which,
quick question. Does DC has anything that's not week to week?
No, because even Titans is, even though it's
even Titans is week to week. So yeah. Okay, just that.
I mean, the thing is, for other countries, some of these shows get released week to week through platforms like Netflix. With the deal that the CW has with Netflix, all of these episodes get released like a week after they stop airing. So like a week after the season ends, they're all on Netflix. So I don't know if they see like a boost or like an increase in watchers after that, if there's some people who just wait to binge it at the end. So.
And we'll never know that because of how Netflix deals with their statistics.
Yeah, Netflix just doesn't. They're like, whatever. We're not putting it out there. Y'all can just sit and wonder. Yeah. I'm interested in this story. I like the story of the Perdi and the Sangee and the analogy to these like small southern towns. Like my family, I grew up in New York, but I was born down south, and a lot of my family is down south in a small town in North Carolina. And it wasn't until I was grown, like over 18, that I realized that white people lived in that town. They just lived on the other side of the town, and we never went there. And I didn't find that out until I went to my cousin, who's like 5 years younger than me. I went to her graduation, and there were all these white people there. And I was like, where did these white people come?
Like, where did they come from?
Like, I was like, legit. Like, so she graduated from high school probably like in the early 2000s. And I don't think this has changed. At her high school, her senior year, she couldn't be homecoming queen because the year before it was a black girl. So every year they trade off. 1 year it's a black girl, 1 year it's a white girl. And since it wasn't her year, she could not be homecoming queen her senior year.
Yep. I've heard those stories before.
So, I mean, it's a real thing, and it's a good analogy, and it's a good story. Still not sure. And then what happens? Okay, so this is what I was thinking. What happens when they stop, quote unquote, the looker? Do they kill her? Do they imprison her? They don't have the thing that the Flash they used to keep the prisoners in. They don't have one of those.
No.
Do they put her in one of those pods?
What happens to the babies if she dies?
Yeah, that too. Like what happens to the babies? What happens to all those people that she's infected? Because she pulled that element out of that guy and he just turned into like a desiccated shell. So I'm just like, where does this go? Like, does Black Lightning become one of those types of superheroes that, you know, he stops these metahumans and they send them to Iron Heights? I don't know.
We know so little about that government operation. So yeah, I don't know the answers to any of this.
Okay. I did like so Black Lightning shows up to help Anissa fight, and I love it because he's like, we're going to talk about this later, young lady. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so clearly everybody knows that Anissa is Thunder now because she completely broke her superhero secret identity. But then all of those people died. So I was like, oh, I guess that won't be an issue now.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to deal with that, but I'm like, oh, okay, kill them off then.
Yeah.
Tends to how they deal with things like that. But
every single person.
So it was like, wait for it.
Those babies were adorable, by the way. I was just like, they're so cute. I mean, those were clearly like full grown, not newborn babies that just came out of this little girl.
Yeah.
But they were so cute.
Okay, so I have a question. And this is just, maybe it's just I've never seen it. But if you've got fraternal twins, let's say they're biracial, do they normally come out, one looks white, one looks black like that? I was wondering about that because
it happens. It's not like a
it does. Okay, I just never seen it.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
no,
They're
there's
individual pregnancies.
yeah. And also there's literally, I would say at least once every couple years, there's like an article about it. Like this amazing story of these twins who are identical, but also different colors. Like I feel like there's always, because people are like fascinated by this. And it's like, yes, once again, we prove that humans aren't that different. Race is a social construct. Doesn't take away from the fact that the whiter looking twin will probably have a better life than the black looking twin.
Right. Nat Geo did that. I believe it was this year, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
With their culpa about their past writing on race.
Yeah.
But I mean, and the other thing that also fascinates me about this is that, like, if you're black, you already know this. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. I mean, it's nothing for you to have one cousin who is super dark and, his or her sibling is super light.
Yeah.
That is existing as a black person.
I mean, I have a cousin. Him and his sister have the exact same face. The exact same face. But he is super light skin, blue eyes, curly blonde hair. And she is my complexion, like brown skin, brown eyes, kinky hair.
Mm-hmm.
Brother and sister.
Mm-hmm. My younger sister and I, we have the exact same face. I am light skin, light brown skin. She is damn near white. And it's funny to show the pictures because my parents also took in her best friend. So I have two sisters, but only one of them is biological. And I would show people the pictures of my family. And generally, if there's a crowd of white people in this, I'll say, jokingly, you want to take a guess which one is my biological sister? And every single time they will pick the one who isn't my biological sister. Mm-hmm. The black people will look at the faces and say, oh, that's your sister. Y'all look exactly alike.
It is what it is. Like we know this because everyone, if you're black and you're American, I would say for the most part, I don't know about other people's culture, but I would say for the most part, if you're black and you're American, you have a family that literally spans from like black as midnight to, white and like Tobias.
Go from original black to light bright, damn near white. Exactly. That's just how it is.
So, yeah, not a big deal to me at all. But I was like, oh, these babies are so cute and precious. I felt so bad when they separated them. I felt like it was like Parent Trap all over again. I'm like, don't separate those babies. Nothing good will come of it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Has anybody ever seen V, like the old like 80s show?
No, I know about it, but I more know about it because when they did the reboot.
Okay. That pregnancy, the delivery scene reminded me of V when the woman had the baby and the human baby came out and then there was another baby there and the baby came out and was a lizard. It was just paced in that way that it just for no reason related to the actual story. It just reminded me of that scene.
I just would like to point out that if I ever was having twins but didn't know until they were coming out of my body, I would be so pissed. Like, that must be the absolute, like, worst, craziest thing. Like, you are expecting one child, and then next thing you know, you are having two. That is frightening. Also, like, the way you prepared to have a kid, too. If you all of a sudden you were bringing home two instead of one, I would die. The other thing, I don't think we talked about this last week, but we got to talk about Tobias and Khalil. Wow.
So it seems that, to me, Tobias doesn't want to kill him, but he will beat his ass if necessary, as was shown in this episode when I mean, you knew what was going to happen when he started taking off his watch and his coat. You was like, oh, there's an ass whipping about to happen. And then I knew the fish tank was going to take the brunt of it, and he was going to blame Khalil for it too, which was you kind of knew that was going to happen. It was still fun to watch. But I liked how Tobias was explaining, I have to deliver this ass whipping, and it was trying to be, all. His explanation was just hilarious to me.
So, again, from watching it, the two episodes back to back, last week's speech that he gave Khalil, and then this week's beating. Last week, it was very much so about he can't get rid of Khalil. Khalil's all he has. His sister is dead. Cyanide is dead. Joey is dead. That was his family. That was his family the whole time he was in hiding. And Khalil is the only one left. So he can't get rid of him. But also, he knows that at any second, Khalil is going to turn on him.
Bingo.
So he has to make him at least scared enough to not turn. And it's really sad.
I guess I'm surprised that he hasn't tried to find somebody else to, other than, the councilman to, sort of do his bidding. You would think that Tobias is not a stupid man, and yes, he probably realizes that Khalil's going to turn on him, and the fact that he just up and told him, yeah, it was my fault that the Reverend got shot, not Black Lightning's.
Well, I think so. It's a couple of things.
And so he took that sort of emphasis away from Khalil to really hate Black Lightning. And now it's going to be all focused on Tobias, which I think was a mistake and not something that Tobias necessarily meant to do.
Yeah, but I think it's a couple of things. Like, Tori was his sister. They grew up together, so she had allegiance to him. What he says about Cyanide is that he pulled her up out of an orphanage. Again, that's somebody that has allegiance to him. Joey, was his henchman. I think he had Khalil's loyalty because Khalil felt like he owed him. But then he saw him wavering. And then the telling him about the preacher was kind of the last straw, which I do think was a mistake on his part. But why doesn't he just find somebody else? He doesn't have anybody. He has to find that person whose weakness he can exploit or who he can make better.
He's an abuser. Yeah. And you have to find somebody who is vulnerable enough that you can insert yourself into their life. And then you have to go through the process of isolating them and breaking them down.
Mm-hmm. And that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as simple as like with the councilman, he can just blackmail him. So, you know, he knows that he has that guy's allegiance up to a point. With Khalil, he gave him something.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
But he doesn't consider him family. He just considers him an asset.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the guy who plays the councilman was also in Widows, which I just saw this weekend. He plays it's funny because he plays the advisor to Brian Tyree Henry's character, who is trying to become councilman. So I guess he just looks like a smarmy politician guy who's being typecast. Yeah. The Tobias and Khalil thing, I really thought when Khalil kind of had Tobias on the ground, I thought he was gonna just walk away. Like he was just gonna walk away and go back to Jen and or run away. And he didn't. And I was kind of like, that's where you messed up. You had your moment. He was down. You could have got away. You might not have won, but you could have got away. And he went back, and I was just like, this is not going to end well for you, my friend. So.
Again, it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah. But I am glad. You saw he went through like one of those like face journeys when he was discovering that it was actually Tobias behind the preacher getting shot. You could just see the wheels turning in poor little Khalil's head. You mean it was you? Not Black Lightning? It was your fault? Like, oh
I'm sorry, yo. This show is very good at trying to make people seem like they're much more intelligent than we see them act.
And they're so not.
There was a line that Tobias said to Khalil. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, he says, "Yes, stop thinking you're not very good at it," which
I really wish somebody would say that to Anissa.
Because I know she is I believe she's a nurse on this show or something, or getting some sort of nursing training. But was I the only one that laughed when she was doing the whole baby delivery thing? Just her face and everything. I couldn't help but to laugh.
Like everything about it. When she was trying to direct old girl, and she was like, I need you to push here. And then when the part that got me was when the girl was explaining the Perdi and the Sangee, and she goes, yeah, the white folks live on that side of town. We call them the Sangee, and then they call us the Perdi. And then Anissa repeats after her, so they call the black folks the Perdi? And I was just like, yes, that's literally what she just said. It's like, why are you like this? Why are you this way?
I gotta go.
There must be some writer that just does not like Nefessa. Not the Nissa character, just does not like Nefessa, because there's no reason to make that character seem that clueless at times.
It's kind of like, and it does make me wonder what goes on in that writer's room a little bit, because it reminds me of Caitlin on season 1 of The Flash, where a lot of times they would give her things which were clearly supposed to be moments where they were trying to clarify things for the audience. But you've told us that Caitlin is a world-class scientist and doctor, so she should not be asking those questions. Because she should be smarter than that. And I get that Anissa she's not a doctor or a scientist yet, but she's supposed to be in school for that, right? So I don't know. It just feels like they have really presented her as she is supposed to be smarter than that, but then they give her these lines where it's like, I just don't believe that you respect her intelligence.
Well, it's like Khalil. So Khalil, before all of this happened, was supposed to be like the great student athlete who, up to that point, demonstrated great judgment, in actions and character, but he couldn't realize that Tobias was shoveling shit at him at any point until now.
I mean, yeah, just the fact that he didn't start to question it until Tobias asked him to kill the preacher. And well, I mean, like, he was kind of starting to question it. Clearly, he felt away, which is why he's been visiting Jen. But I just, like, really, you didn't put two and two together at all before now, bruh? Like,
right?
Come on.
Can we chalk some of that up to abusive relationship?
A little bit. Yeah. But only a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the writers could have done a better job of, like, Khalil. You know, I don't know. It shouldn't have just been a total revelation at this point. Like, he's been working with Tobias for a minute now.
Yeah.
And he's been slapped around by Tobias for a minute now.
Yes. All right, so moving on to Lynn. Last week we talked about Dr. Jace and the villain agenda, which I still conclude that Dr. Jace was not wrong. They would have lost all of those kids if they did not save half of them. But this week, we see the after effects of that. And people are not pleased. People are very much so upset. And Lynn is spiraling. So what did y'all think of this?
I mean, when she addressed the parents, that went about as I had expected. Although, I mean, she took on all of the blame in that of what happened, even though Dr. Jace was there. Bill Duke's character wasn't there, and so she had to deal with all of that on her own, which I kind of felt sorry for her. And here's something I'm curious about. Do you think that if let's say all of them had died, it would have worked out better for her than if some of them would have died?
I don't think that situation works out better either way.
Right.
I think if she let all of them die because she was trying to save all of them, either way, nobody was well prepared for that press conference or meeting or whatever it was supposed to be. Nobody handled that correctly. They should have had something prepared. They should have had a way to talk about what happened. The whole, like, they should have had the names right there. Like, they should have been like, this is who's gone. We're so sorry for your loss. There will be people to connect with you, blah, 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 and talk about what the next steps are, blah, blah, blah. She just went out there so ill-prepared.
Which surprised me because this is a government project. Mm-hmm. Like, the one thing that government generally knows how to do well is spin something that went wrong.
Yes. They should have had their spin ready. And I think people would have still been upset. You still would have had the people talking about, if we were white, you wouldn't be doing us like this. You would have still had that because it is what it is. But she just felt so ill-prepared to talk about what was going on. And, I mean, obviously you don't disclose all of the information of what happened. But, I would have been very clear that, like, in our attempts to, figure out how to help these children, we realized that, the pods were unstable. These many kids died, and it was the only way to save the other kids. I mean, you could have said it that way, I guess. I mean, people would have still been upset. Right. Also, again, the names, like, not having the names right there. Because, of course, the first question I'm going to ask is, if half of them died, was my kid in the half that died or in the half that's still alive?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like between Jefferson and Lynn, the Pierces are taking a lot of L's right now.
And I mean, for her to say, you know, well, this is not about race. So like, you don't know anything about the history of Black people in medicine in this country. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it wasn't explicitly about race, that's how it's going to be read. It is what it is.
Yeah. And she just, yeah. So there should have been a PR person. She should not have been. If she was going to be the one out there, she should have had a better prepared statement.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think she ever considered that this could ever happen?
Yeah, I mean, she knew. She was spending all her nights trying to figure it out because she knew that more than likely they weren't going to be able to save everyone. And then again, once it happens, this is a government project. They should have, I mean, I've said from the beginning, I don't know how you just hold on to people's babies and not tell them what's going on.
Yep.
So she should have been prepared for this. So Lynn is spiraling out and she's drinking and she's upset and she's depressed. Jennifer
ain't helping at all.
No, Jennifer came in with that real talk. You know what? The best and worst thing you can do as a parent is teach your children lessons. And then you have to be able to deal with the fact that the things that you've taught your children have sunk in to the point where they throw them back in your face.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't teach your children to be honorable and take responsibility for their actions, and then they see you doing the exact opposite. Because she's right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
She didn't tell a single lie.
Like, at the end of the day, Lynn is the one who's responsible for what happens in that lab. And if she wasn't ready to stand up in front of those people and say, we tried our hardest to help these kids and we lost half of them because we were not able to save all of them. If she is not ready to stand up in front of those people and say that, that's on her. She's the one in charge.
True, a lie was not told, but the conversation should have been held. If you're going to have that conversation, it should have been held a lot earlier.
Like with the parents of the kids?
No, the Jennifer Lynn conversation. That's a conversation that would have been probably better off having had, before something like this occurs. So
no, I was right on time.
I mean,
it's
not like Jennifer knew what was going on in that lab before this happened.
Yeah, but okay. Quick question though. So back in the beginning, when Lynn was really wanting to head up this project, and didn't I forget his last name, but Bill Duke's character say, you're going to have to deal with anything, the good and the bad that comes from this. Mm-hmm. So this, she saw the possibility of helping everyone, but didn't want to deal with the downside.
Well, I mean, also she pushed her way. She pushed her way into the project. That's why he said that, because he didn't ask her to join the project. She pushed her way into the project, and then he was like, "Okay, cool. If you want to be a part of this, because you've decided that you're the only one who knows what's best, then you're going to have to deal with the downside and the good side."
He threw it in, and he threw it in her face on top of that, because I believe that was a response to her when she said, "Oh, all this is going to fall on you if anything goes wrong." He was like, "Oh no, my sister, no, you are in charge. I don't exist. If this goes wrong, it's going to fall on you."
I guess the only thing she could say is, "Look, I never wanted her in this project."
But even then, again, she has to then admit that she allowed a psycho to work on the project. And that's something that they're not going to admit. That's something that I definitely would not tell the public that. Because that doesn't work out for anybody. That's something that they're not going to admit. And even, I think where Jennifer was dead right is that, again, it doesn't matter that homegirl tricked her or that homegirl messed with the numbers or whatever. Lynn feels duped. At the end of the day, you are the one who is responsible for this project.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you got tricked, you let yourself be tricked, or you have to take responsibility for the fact that the buck stops with you.
You put yourself in the position to be the fall guy.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome.
So, I'm just saying, my girl Jen has become the voice of reason on this show, and I love her for it. She's my favorite. Was there more stuff with Jen other than her telling her mama about herself?
She met with Khalil again.
Yeah, it's mostly her and Khalil. The fact that every single time Khalil comes complaining about Tobias, Jennifer doesn't push him off that roof again. She is a woman of great restraint. Because literally every single time he would come complaining about Tobias, I'd be like, "No shit, Sherlock," and push him right off that roof.
For her to say, "No, we'll figure it out." Who is we? I don't know who we is.
I'm telling you, he don't deserve her.
I was rooting for you. I was a few episodes ago. I was rooting for you, saying, "Look, at least you knew not to put these Negroes back together again." And here you go. Mm-hmm. So upset.
I mean, I get it, because last week you have the two of them meeting up in the school. And I mean, a big reason is that she's stuck in that house. And so she's feeling nostalgic about all the things that she can't do. And then obviously he's feeling nostalgic about the time when Tobias wasn't whooping his ass on the regular. So I get it why they're kind of being drawn back together. But I'm also like, I would push him off the roof every damn time.
I'm just thinking about when times were happier, when Tobias wasn't punching me in my face every other day.
Ugh. Yeah, he showed up looking so messed up. Oh, he was hiding in the bushes and everything. Oh my God. Do better. I want her therapy sessions to start back
gets his ass whooped, and our response is to tell him to do better. Okay, yep. All right.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I know it sounds like victim blaming.
Okay, as long as we're clear that that's what it is.
But when you can't put two and two together, and then all of a sudden you want people to feel bad for you, I'm kind of like, sorry.
Yeah.
He's like, I just realized that Tobias was the one behind the preacher shoot. Like, really? And it's not even like he realized it. I would have loved it if Khalil had put two and two together, but he didn't. Tobias admitted it. That's how he figured it out. It's like, my God.
He should be having that conversation with Henderson, though.
Right? Right? Why has nobody brought up Henderson? Like, why has nobody brought up, hey, my dad's best friend is the chief of police. Maybe you can cut a deal. Because the whole thing was that they had to let Tobias go because there were no witnesses to anything he had done, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty big witness. How many more weeks do you think it takes them to figure that out?
See, you beat me to it because I was going to say, well, you know, it's going to take like 10 episodes for Henderson to realize that he could use Khalil as like a material witness.
Ugh. I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to be so upset when it's like literally 5 episodes from now and they're like, hey.
You know what? Okay, so some people said when this show came out that it was the blackest show since The Wire. Family. The show is black as hell, but it is not The Wire. Mm-mm. It is not The Wire.
No. I have not seen The Wire, but from everything I've heard, The Wire had much better writing.
Yeah.
In terms of police procedurals, yeah. Miles ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely not The Wire at all. Good music,
so
though.
I've got a question. How is the Reverend still alive?
So the Reverend's been alive. Apparently can't nobody take him down in the house of the Lord. But I do appreciate that. And I don't know if this is more recently, because usually we just either see him behind the pulpit or in his office. But he does walk around with a cane. Like, he is injured still. So that they haven't forgotten is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I actually thought that Khalil was going to actually kill him. I did. And then I was kind of surprised when he didn't. I thought he was going to do so with a lot of regret, but I thought he was going to actually kill him.
I mean, I can see in next episode if Khalil kills him or tries to kill him. But no, at that point, I was like, Khalil's not killing anybody.
Right.
Especially now when he was like, my mama go to that church.
Right. You know, ain't no black people going to shoot Jesus, okay?
No.
I am not even religious, and I ain't shooting Reverend.
Here's the thing. He said, kill the Reverend. And Khalil was like, what? Kill the Reverend. And his response to that was, you know what? Kill him in church. It'll be even better.
Now, you know that ain't going to happen.
And then Khalil's response to that was, my mama goes to that church. And then he's like, I don't care where your mama goes to church. I didn't tell you to shoot your mama. I told you to kill the Reverend in church. I don't know why anybody thought he was going to go kill the Reverend in that church.
That's like asking Khalil to go to the Apollo and boo a little kid singing a gospel song. That shit just ain't going to happen.
Like, even my mama goes to that church. It's like, Khalil, you know you go to that church. You act like 6 months ago you wasn't sitting in the pulpit like this little light of mine. Like, come on, bruh. Like, you are like, it's like, what was it, like 3 episodes ago when somebody was like, oh, come on, oh, this little church boy, track boy. Like, Khalil's not shooting anybody.
No.
Sorry. It's not going to happen. He is who he is.
I did find it kind of funny that the Reverend Holt was trying to be the voice of morality after he knows that money that Anissa brought came from, we'll say, dubious circumstances. And yet he's trying to be the like, really? Okay. All right.
It's interesting to me. I feel like Reverend Holt is this character. I think he's both. I think he he knows that Tobias Whale is behind wanting to buy the hospital. So he's not going to give into that. But he also knows Anissa stole that money. And I think it's really, for him, it's the source. Because, like, even if he doesn't know that it's Anissa, he knows that this is a person genuinely trying to help, probably not doing the best thing. And as a preacher, I would counsel her to do something different. But the source is different.
Right. She's taking the money from someone who's poisoning the community. Mm-hmm. And that's different than Tobias, who is actually the one doing the poisoning.
Yeah. And then I also appreciated how he said, like, Black folks always knew. Black folks always knew Tobias was still alive. They always knew he was behind the 100. And he's like, and I knew that it was him when he tried to kill me. It's, you know, we know. like we know when you have to sometimes, like, do bad things to get a better result because we have to take care of ourselves. But Tobias doesn't care about the community. Tobias cannot stop with the racial slurs, like, even if he tried. He does not care about this community. He cares about running things.
Not at all.
It's like,
not at all.
Every time Khalil opens his mouth, he calls him big lips, and I'm just like, that's just rude.
And I feel so bad about myself because the reason why I like Tobias is, like, he hates people. He hates Black people on a cartoonish level.
Yes.
Like, and it's just he's just evil for the sake of evil.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. Like, literally every time he says something, I'm just like, why are you this way? Why Tobias?
I mean, he got that gourmet anti-Blackness, man.
Oh my God. And that scene last week when he had done that whole meal for cyanide and then she wasn't there. And I mean, he was just sitting there eating the caviar, just shading the hell out of Khalil. There's nothing but crab legs around him. I was like, this man, he doesn't know how to not be extra.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't know how to not take things to the extreme. He's the worst. Ugh.
He's the best. And I feel so bad about myself saying this.
Oh, I can't with him. All right. So we have to talk about Gambi. Gambi is alive, is not contacting Jefferson, I'm assuming, because he wants to find out who tried to kill him and take that person out before he reveals that he's still alive, I'm assuming. And but he has trackers on everybody. He has a tracker on Anissa, he has a tracker on Jefferson. He can see what's happening with them. He has drones. He's in a motel, but he has drones. Gambi literally is Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so question.
How did
Jefferson and Anissa did see that drone out there, didn't they?
Yes.
So they have to know that Gambi's alive, because who else would be putting a drone out there?
I think Jefferson still thinks that Gambi is alive. I think it was not great writing that Anissa believed it so easily. Yeah, I don't think they fully know what's going on. I think next week when he shows up, because I'm assuming next week he's going to show up, it's still going to be a surprise. They're going to play it like they were surprised and didn't guess.
Okay, I got to back up for a second, because when Gambi jumped out of that SUV, was I the only one that had, like, all the mathematics, like the GIF when he jumped out and he survived? Like, I'm sorry, if you're jumping out of the car through the bottom of the car, through the undercarriage of the car, while it's flipping and exploding at high speed, how are you still alive?
How didn't they see him? That was the question I had.
That part. I can believe that part. Because you're not expecting to see an old dude flying out the bottom of a car that's flipping over and exploding. So I can believe.
Apparently, James Remar is superhuman, because I don't know if you saw him in that tank top, but James Remar got a little body on him. So apparently, Gambi is more fit than we thought. I think for me, what was more glaring is that there's clearly no one in the driver's seat when that car blows up. So I don't know, because even when a car blows up and a body burns, there still remains.
Right.
Unless it's like a chemical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was exactly what I was about to say. Do you know how hot it has to be to melt your bones?
Yeah, that's more my concern, is the fact that Henderson came like, we're definite for sure Gambi died. And I'm like, but there was no body. And I feel like there would have been at least the charred remains of a body.
To episode 5, here come Henderson at the door. Well, you know, I can't show you the body. The car exploded, but we doing some DNA. On what?
I mean, because the thing is, you're going to find his DNA in the car, definitely, because it was his car. But if you don't find no body, no teeth, no nothing.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, where y'all getting these samples from?
Whole thing suspect. It just, yeah.
I mean, because the hair, like, you would think the hair and any like skin, you know, that might have fallen off his body, that would have been burnt in the fire, right? So, like, where y'all getting all these DNA samples from?
Again, and even if you do get DNA, it was his car. Of course, there would be DNA from him in his car.
But we already do that because his name is on the freaking door.
Exactly. There is that too. They're like, Jefferson, we're sure. We saw his name on the side of the car.
Yeah.
That's how we know it was him.
You know, I mean, he was advertising in case there was some haberdashery emergencies, and you know, just happened that we were able to ID him by the sign on the door.
Oh my God. This show. I love this show. I do. I really do.
It's the greatest show. This show is so good.
Oh.
It's great, but not good though.
It's so good in spite of itself sometimes.
Yes. Despite everything they do to sometimes make it not good. It's really
great, but it's not good though.
Oh God. Anything else before I get to this feedback?
Nah.
Okay. All right. So,
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it's kind of hard, you know, again, I think this show might be going into we have to group them up and watch them because it's so hard. It's becoming really hard week to week to have like real analysis outside of the jokes.
Yes.
Because of the way that the show is paced and structured. It's just, we've got to the point where it's more jokes now because we don't know what's going on.
So we have one feedback. It's from Marion. I think it's going to lead to something else I do want to discuss. Okay. So Marion says, I don't know what got over painkiller, cough, cough, Khalil, but he know he's on a death wish challenging Tobias and not doing what he told him to. Honestly, I had a thought this week rewatching both of them, and I was like, I'm surprised we haven't seen Khalil try to kill himself. Because I feel like he's in that place where, honestly, he feels like there's no way out. There's nowhere for him to go. But he can't stay with Tobias anymore. So I'm just surprised we haven't seen that happen.
I think that's a good point. I mean, in the conversation he had with Jennifer, actually kind of, it seems like it's leading in that way. Because she said, well, why don't you just leave? And he was like, where do I go? With all the bad decisions I made, like, who's going to have me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would, if this was like a drama, we would definitely see that. But since it's a comic book show, I don't think we're going to get an attempted suicide. But honestly, I was like, yo, Khalil, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is rough. Okay. Marion says, poor Lynn, Jennifer was right. Those deaths aren't your fault because you didn't kill them. But did you not quadruple? But why did you not quadruple check the data before going live? This is true. This is very true. And I did like that. As much as Jennifer gave Lynn the real talk, she was still like, I'm going to reiterate this. This is not your fault. You are not to blame. But you got to take responsibility for it. All right. Lastly, are the new yin yang babies the key to stopping the green light epidemic? I noticed how Freaky Deaky Lady couldn't affect one of the babies. Thanks for the podcast. Okay, so this is the thing I wanted to discuss. I don't know if they are the key to stopping the green light thing, but I think they're definitely the key to stopping Looker. Because I wonder if it was... I mean, obviously, there's a little hint of racism there, but I wonder why it is that she was all about taking over the white people and not the black people.
Because it's a heavy-handed analogy. So it's the idea that these people will, quote unquote, go against their own best interest in order to maintain their power.
Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering if we're also going to get that it's something where she can't control them.
That could be it too.
Yeah. Because what she says to the guy is, there's something that's of my body, but that I can't control. And you need to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I wonder if that's the key, is that she can't control them, and having these two babies that have this power. I mean, they're babies, so I don't know how much they can do. But if it's going to be something about the two of them to combined being able to take, like, maybe they'll be able to take the whatever it is out of the people on the other side of town without killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing too is, I do wonder if they stop her, if Jefferson is going to take her back to Lynn to be experimented on. Because he was very interested in the fact that she was another meta made from the vaccines. So is that the thing? Like, they capture these like old school metas and like put them in these pods?
That may be the creation of whatever prison we're looking for these metas.
Also, I wonder if Wendy... Wait, Wendy didn't die, did she?
Didn't they put...
They put Wendy back in the pod, right? I hope she's one of the pod kids that survived.
I don't think this show would do that.
Like, kill her off?
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that the show would do that.
And I wonder too, because I was doing some reading on Grace and the Outsiders. I wonder if that's how we get to Outsiders. It's like a combination of these like old school and new school metas.
I'll be honest, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about the Outsiders, so
it's basically like a superhero team that Roy Harper actually led, like that had like the younger heroes.
Okay.
So, similar to like a Young Justice.
Okay.
Which I think is the subtitle of the new Young Justice that's coming out on DC Universe, actually.
I got to catch up on Young Justice anyway. I'm one of those people that missed that boat. So
same.
And then, like I've said before, I have a blind spot when it comes to DC Comics. So
Young Justice was pretty good.
It is good. It's just I didn't watch it when it was on TV. So little by little, when I have like some spare time, I'll watch an episode or two.
Yeah. All right. I was just saying, it made me think about a lot of places that they could go in terms of these metas. But then I feel like, again, we were in this position last season, and we were also like, ooh, they could go here. Ooh, they could go here. Ooh, they could go here. And I have no idea where we are right now.
Yeah, but I think you make a really good point. So I think around this time, most of the other CW shows were busy kind of seeding their universes. And Black Lightning has been really slow about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've given us like little things, but not enough to really. Like, I'm still very confused about what are the rules.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, when you talk about characters that like superhero character or meta characters that exist outside of the Pierce family, like we've seen them, but we have not seen them in a way that we say, oh, this person is coming back. This person is part of the extended family, if you will. It's still been very contained within the Pierce family, mm-hmm. and then the small, like rogues gallery they have.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is all we have for today. We will see you next week. And then we might talk about maybe doing these as like books instead of as individual episodes, because I think that's definitely where the show is leading. And I don't want to feel like we're only getting part of the story when we talk about it. So we'll figure that all out. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the feedback, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Peace.